Hi there, and welcome back, friends of Thoughtful Gaming. This is your host, Emmanuel Ken, and if you don't know me, you can know me right now. This is a guide about Wizardry 8 party composition, just in case if you need some new inspiration for a party, or if you're new to the game, this might be very helpful for you. So, let's begin. First, you have this screen if you start a new game, and you can create a character there. So what are we going to create? First, we will talk about skills, and we'll just take a ranger, a mook ranger, which is a good character, by the way. Also, the way I'm distributing the attributes is good, but yeah, you can basically choose what you want, but I want to talk about skills first. You have this array of skills here. In this example for the ranger. Here's a limited amount of skills, but very important ones are among them. Artifacts, mythology, communication, and scouting you can see here. And the important skills for the ranger are scouting and mythology first. You'd say like combat skills are important too, but they will rise as you fight. So I'm just telling you the perfect party composition, so you have all the skills that make your life easy and that give you all the information the game has in it for you. Because otherwise, if you're like blind and don't know anything, you're not gonna do good if you don't know this game well. So with a ranger, the ranger is your perfect first party member because he has a skill very pivotal to you, which is scouting. Scouting makes it easy for you to find things because you don't have to turn on and off scouting. In the party menu, the ranger just automatically scouts for everything and finds usually everything, and this scouting gets better, and yeah, that's it. If you have to do that manually, you can get surprised by opponents, which makes them get one round more than you at the start, and it's all very messy. So I'd recommend, if you're new to the game, just take a ranger, raise your scouting skill, and find all the items that are near you. And the other skill that is important, and I would also recommend taking that with the ranger, is mythology. It gives you the true identities of monsters and to determine their characteristics. So you can know all about the monsters, if you should maybe run away, if you should attack them, and how you should attack them. It gives you things like their immunities, it gives you their resistances to magic, and you should definitely take this if you're new to the game. So always raise mythology with a ranger, and the rest you can put into bow, skill, and ranged combat, and you should put him in the back line then. So this would be our ranger. And yeah. A mook ranger would be a good ranger, and you should take him. So for the next category, you have the skill artifacts. The skill artifacts is an intelligence-based skill, which makes it most viable for all of the casters. The bishop, it's a kind of universal caster, has been like the most apt at that, if you like. So I'm always taking here good choices with the attributes. You could take them too if you want, and it's just for illustration. I'm also taking like good spells, but I won't comment why or what I'm taking here. It's just this kind is a healer, and you can heal and replenish your stamina. But the most important thing about the bishop is, first, he has artifacts. Second, he has all magic schools. In this case, I'm going to talk about artifacts. It gives you the magic items. Usually, if you always take the maximum amount of skill points per level in artifacts with a bishop, you will always know all the artifacts. If you're new to the game, you should specialize in 2 schools with a bishop, and then you would have a good bishop. But Like as I said, artifacts, most important thing is intelligence, because yeah, it's mentioned first here. And it helps you identify items and use magic items. So that is your second character. Should be an intelligence-based guy. You could also take the ranger for that. Yeah, why not? You can just take a ranger if you want for that. So you can give the ranger all like quality of life skills and nothing else. Also, everyone that can cast is pretty much good for this, especially the wizard-like types or the alchemists. Like a samurai would be good, which is a hybrid, but it's still good for artifacts. A ninja would be good, a monk would be good, and even better would be a gadgeteer, because he is partly intelligence-based. And of course, the pure casters are pretty good for that, which are priest, alchemist, bishop, psionic, and mage, with the bishop being best at artifacts. And you can choose what you want. The bishop is probably a bit hard for choice for a new guy, so I would recommend you would just take a straightforward mage and bomb the hell out of everything with the mage. So for the next skill I have picked like locks and traps. Locks and traps is a very, very important skill, and sometimes you will have to open the door and you won't come through without locks and traps. So this is a skill I would absolutely have in a party. You can, to some extent, with spells replace that skill, but it's pretty hard, and I would just take someone who can like do locks and traps pretty good. And if you're new to this, you can take a rogue. This makes your life pretty easy. A rogue is very good, competent as well. The other guys who can use like the locks and traps skill are a ninja, or a gadgeteer, and finally a bard. And the bard is what I'm talking about next. Would make here a melee bard. Hobbit bard is perfectly viable. And with a bard you can see you have pretty high skills. And with a bard I would always take communication. You can take communication with every character, but with a bard you have a 25% bonus, and it basically influences an NPC's opinion of a character, quite possibly affecting his willingness to talk. I haven't experienced the willingness to talk, but the sales prices and buying prices at the merchants are quite hard influenced by communication. So it makes your life much easier. If you have a good communication skill, you will always have enough money. And so I take that. And for maximum convenience, you can also take locks and traps with a bard, and then music. And because music is like the skill that defines the bard with his instruments. So that would be a perfect character who can, after a while, deal with the locks and traps well, talk to the people and play his music, and the combat skills will just come through use. There will be enough use in this game, as it can sometimes be a grind. So this is about like the quality of life skills. Then you should also take a note for the casting skills. First, most important casting skill is divinity. You can take a priest for that, you can take a lord for that, you can take a Valkyrie for that, and you can of course always take a bishop for that as well. And I would recommend as a beginner you could take a Valkyrie. She is very good. Like if she gets killed, she normally gets a second life, so once in a round she will get revived if she dies, which is very helpful. And yeah, what divinity does is it gives you, well, let's just take the Valkyrie here. good skills for the good attributes for the Valkyrie are like strength, vitality, dexterity, and you can see she has no divinity yet, but that will come later, so don't worry. If you need it, it will be there, or you can just take a priest, make your life pretty easy. With a priest you should take other skills. You should always take the piety, you should also take intelligence, and you should get vitality, and after that you can take speed. And you see you have mostly healing spells. Here I would take for the first run heal and bless. Bless gives you combat boni, and heal, yeah, well, it heals your characters. So divinity is an absolute must for a beginner. It gives you the most helpful buffs, the resistance buffs, the protection buffs. So that's divinity. Next thing is Wizardry. Wizardry gives you most offensive combat buffs, but also some defensive buffs, like Element Shield, which is good against, for example, fire spells that go against you. And I'm just taking here an elf. Elf is a good casting character, and you can see here he has things like energy blast, frost, and also light, which can be helpful in some dungeons as they're dark otherwise. Not the beginning dungeons, but yeah. With that mage you should always take like Wizardry to the max. So if you use spells, you should always raise the spell schools as much as you can. And Wizardry is so the second most important casting skill. The third one is probably Psionic. But yeah, so Wizardry you can find with the Samurai, and with a mage, and of course with a bishop as well. So if you're taking one of these classes, then you're set. With the hybrid classes there at the start, you have to wait for like 5th or 6th level depending on your skill and on the class, and then you can get the skills. So for a beginner, if you absolutely want them, the skills pretty early, you should take a mage, and otherwise if you can wait a bit, if you think you're good with the starting monsters, then you can take a samurai and have a good melee combatant as well. So, and as I said, the next important class for buffs would be the Psionic. Psionic has some pretty good combat buffs. You should, if you take a Psionic is not a very good class. You should take the standard casting attributes. For me, is like intelligence, piety, and speed, and vitality as well, because he's very low vitality here, so you could raise that at 50, but in the other cases, always raise your primary attributes first to get to the special skills. And so, how can you get psionics? You can get psionics with a psionic, with a bishop, and with a monk, and I would always take the monk for the psionic buffs, which are like negligible, but which can be very helpful. One of them is like called haste, and it gives you more attacks, so you can see that would be always very helpful. Then you have alchemy with the alchemist, which is not very much needed, but it is helpful, giving you much money, as you can combine potions with that and sell them for a good profit, or you can just make very valuable potions for curing for your party. So an alchemist is a good idea, but it's not needed in that case. And for the general party composition, you should have some guys who can do the melee damage, like a fighter. Like a lizardman would be a good fighter, as you see the primary attributes here. Vitality, strength, dexterity, and speed would be the primary attributes for if you make a melee combatant. And also take these with the hybrids like a Lord, a Valkyrie, a Samurai, a Ninja, a Monk. If you skill them for the direct combat, you should always go for Strength, Vitality, Dexterity, and Speed. And if you have ranged combatants like the Ranger, you don't... I'll take a Mook here. A Mook is a very good Ranger. You would not need Vitality if you're skilling him for ranged. I would go for Strength, for Senses, and for either Speed or Dexterity first. And that will do good damage from afar with missile weapons. Missile weapons are not very good, but one of the ranged guys can be pretty helpful, especially for the ranged crits. So next you would have spell damage. Spell damage is not at all needed, but good classes for that are, yeah, all of these here. Priest, Alchemist, Bishop, Psionic and Mage. Priest as well, yeah. The best would be probably the Mage. You can bomb stuff with a fire magic, like fireballs, or water magic, ice balls, or something like that. You can bring them down pretty easily, so... you should have a good mix, and if you want to have a mix that is easy, you should really take a fighter with you, preferably a Lizardman or a Mook fighter, or you can also take a Hobbit or a human fighter. That would also be great choices. You should probably take a Valkyrie with you for some melee damage as well, and some buffs, which would be good as a dwarf or also a Hobbit. Like, that would be great. And yeah, you should like take about 2 to 3 guys for your melee damage, and 1 or 2 for ranged, and the rest for spellcasters. I would always recommend a bard, as he's pretty helpful with his instruments and has stamina-based spells with the instruments, which can be pretty helpful in a fight, as this stamina regenerates so easily. So, some basic tips about character building before you will build a party. Always max your primary attributes first, then go for the next attribute. And the main attributes for close combat would be, in my opinion, Strength, Dexterity, Vitality, and Speed. For ranged combat, you would go for Strength, Senses, Dexterity, and Speed, and for casting spells, you would go for Intelligence, Piety, Vitality, and Speed. Speed is always pretty important for the number of attacks or for your initiative. So, we're going to make a basic party now, just to complete this. And this will be done just now. So as I said, we're starting with a Ranger. We're going for a Mook Ranger here, which is always a good choice. A male Mook Ranger, because, yeah, females have a slight advantage at the start because of some items that regenerate stamina, but the Ranger doesn't need that much stamina, and he's in the back, so we'll go for the Mook Ranger. We'll raise Strength and Senses, and in that case, let's raise Speed as well. And we'll give him Scouting, we'll give him Mythology, and we'll give him some ranged weapon skills, and we'll call him like Ranger 1, just for the hell of it, because we're just doing a party composition here. Like I thought I had made a Ranger before there, yeah. And for the next one, I will give you a Bard. Bard is pretty good. I would take a Mook here as well. And it will be like a combat-based character. So we're taking Vitality, we're taking Strength, and we're taking Dexterity. I'd recommend to first raise Vitality and Strength, after that Dexterity, and then you can go for Speed and maybe Senses if you want. And with a Bard, I would put him in the front. He can take that. You can also put him in the back, that's no problem. Give him some kind of polearm weapon, or like a staff would be good, a bow would be good. Then you'd need under skills. I would make a combat bard here, and we'll give him the communication skill, we'll give him the music skill, and we'll give him locks and traps. And so we have locks and traps, we have communication, we have mythology with a ranger, we have scouting with a ranger, and take a different portrait here with a bard. And for the next one, we'll go for a pretty easy buffing character, which is the priest. We'll go for a pretty tough dwarven priest. He has many points you can take. And we'll go for a tough guy build, like he will be slow, but he will be there, and you should raise intelligence with him as well. He is there for healing, and we will be good for healing and buffing before fight, and also sometimes buffing in fight. So we'll have a pretty tough dwarven priest here. You can put him in the back, you could put him in front as well. He will be able to take it with his high vitality and piety. And we'll give him simple skills: heal wounds and bless, raise his divinity, and we're going to raise his divine magic, as we have taken the spells for divine magic with him. And what are we going to talk next? We'll give him next. We're giving him some close combat, because that would be helpful if he's in the front row. So we are having a tough priest here. And now we're going to need someone who can use the wizardry spells. We're going to take a samurai here. A very good sword fighter, a female samurai would be good. Going to give him strength, vitality, and dexterity. You can also go for speed instead. We're giving him close combat, sword fighting skills, and dual weapons. He's a good dual weapon fighter, and you should always raise dual weapons. You can later go for critical strike, so you have better critical strikes, but these are like the main things. He should hit with his weapons, or better, she should hit. So we're like having the basic skills set here, and what are we missing yet? We are missing locks and traps and artifacts. Locks and traps we already have with a bard, of course. We're missing artifacts still. So let's take someone with intelligence who can use like the artifact stuff. And we don't have psionics yet, so let's go for the monk. Go for a human monk here, and we don't have to raise intelligence. The intelligence is enough for the artifact skill. We're just going for the basic melee combat skills, which I have a preference for. We're going to raise the artifacts and the close combat and staff and the wand, because staff and wand, there are pretty good staffs and wands in game for the monk, so let's just take that. And you're starting with a staff as well. Martial arts is pretty good and you have a bonus in that, but I just go for staff and wand. Stealth will rise later. It's like a defensive based skill, and it's rising your armor class, but you can just put your monk on the sides and it will rise by itself. So we're having a monk. So what is missing here? Like we have a ranger, a bard, a priest, a samurai, a monk. What would possibly be good? We have now all kinds of spells. We have all kinds of damage with us. We can just go for some straight fighter. And let's just take the traditional... Well, I always like a Valkyrie, you know. You could go for the traditional lizardman fighter, but I love my Valkyries. And I'll take them again and again. Especially with a bard, with a dwarf who has also dwarven damage resistance. The perfect tank. Going for the pole arm here, for the close combat. And we can put in some ranged combat as well with a bow. Don't know if you're going to need it, but... There we go. So how are we going to put this thing together here? We have our 6 guys. We should put the buffers first, which are priest and bard. Then for the next buffs you should go for monk and samurai, and after that you can go for our Valkyrie, but really we can put the Valkyrie first. She also has good buffs and has divinity. So this would be the 3rd position with a Valkyrie, 4th with a monk for some kinds like haste, and next for the samurai for some resistance buffs like resist elements. The last would be the ranger. And we're starting the game. I'm starting on expert here, and I'm just giving you like a... We'll skip the intro, as it's not needed here for the introduction. I'll give you a basic party formation that you can work with. We have a priest here. He's tough, but he should be put in the back at first until he has good equipment. We have a bard. You can also put the bard in the back, that's no problem. The Valkyrie is pretty tough, so she can take hits from the sides. The same goes for the monk. And we have a ranger here. The ranger should definitely go in the back, and now you can argue who should be put into the front, and I think I would put the bard in the front. And now you have a pretty good party, and if you're with a back to the wall, only these 4 can be attacked. These 2 are protected, and if you're like positioning like that, it is the most perfect positioning you have against opponents.
Now don't get downhearted. We're in a bit of a jam, but I'm sure if we all work together, we'll do.
And this will be a party which can pretty much rock the game pretty easily. You can also load the sample party, which you have in your Wizardry 8 save games. This is also a pretty viable party for the game. So I wish you good luck, and it's really pretty much fun, because there's much fun to be had in Wizardry 8. Especially if you like combat, turn-based combat, grind, and if you like a nice story with some choices, not many, but the choices you have are pretty much significant. So have fun playing the game. I wish you like good parties, good grinding, good combat, and yeah, a good night in that case for me now. So I have put together a playthrough, which you can always find in the description, in the playlist, which also features a party which is especially good for late game expert combat, and which you can look at too. There are some tips there as well, especially for the characters. And what is also coming is that like I'll put together profession by profession, like what is the best Valkyrie, should you choose there to make this perfect. I'll put that together for you, like in the videos for all the classes. But that's like, I think once a week I will bring out a video for that. So if you like that, I'll make the playlist for this video, and I'll just add it there. So you can subscribe to the playlist, or you can subscribe to me. And yeah, you'll be informed then. And this will get you started pretty well. So have fun and see you. Happy gaming to you. This is Immanuel Ken signing out.